we'll be taking the train from Murano to Innsbruck. In the morning, we have a lovely buffet breakfast. You'll find that hotels in the Alps serve up a large breakfast as part of the room package. You have your choice of cold cuts, and often you'll find eggs, breads, fruits, cheeses, juices. Good way to start the day as we roll along on our first-class train heading into Austria. Nowadays, with the European Union, there's no more border formalities. You don't have to stop anywhere and show your passport. You just cross the border. Notice how we're going faster than these cars on the freeway, arriving in the heart of downtown Innsbruck. Let me tell you all about it. We're visiting the old town of Innsbruck, and it's really a charming spot for the tourists. There's all kinds of interesting shops. There's knickknacks and curios and souvenirs. There's little fast food stands. There's McDonald's, and there's some real high-quality restaurants. And it all happens within a small neighborhood of about 8 blocks of a medieval town. It's like walking through an original Gothic town. It's nearly 500 years old in this part of the city. Innsbruck also has a modern part of town, which is worth having a look at for the shops, but the real reason that the visitor would come here is to see the old town. There's a handful of museums you can visit. There's the Royal Palace. And we'll be staying here in Innsbruck for a couple of days. We'll have a walking tour with a local guide. We're staying in a hotel that's just 2 blocks from the old town and quite near the theaters. So it's going to make a very charming visit. It's part of our Alpine tour. We're going on from here into Switzerland, where we'll spend about 10 days. And we'll take you along with us as we go. In the old days, Innsbruck was one of the most important cities in all of Europe, for it was the capital and residence of Maximilian I, who was the first emperor of the Habsburg dynasty. The Habsburgs controlled an area that went all the way through Spain and up into parts of Northern Europe and Holland, the northern part of Italy, even parts of South America. And Maximilian very much favored Innsbruck as one of his official residences. He also lived in Vienna and in Graz and had palaces in all of those spots, but Innsbruck was one of his favorites. He loved to come here for the hunting, and it was also an important center of silver mining, and this was part of the source of the early treasury of Innsbruck. Nowadays, it's a popular tourist center, and you can come and enjoy the little museums. There's theaters here, many high-quality restaurants, and we'll be staying for 2 days in Innsbruck, doing some shopping around and enjoying some fine dining, of course, and just mostly soaking in the atmosphere of the historic old town. And it's most famous for its golden roof, which is where the Emperor Maximilian would watch the tournaments down in the courtyard. He had a balcony up there, and this was one of his residences, the town of Innsbruck. And back in the year 1500, 1510, 1520. So in those days, this was a very important city, and nowadays it's a very livable city. They have nice trolleys to get you around town, very efficient public transit system. There's the main train station, so you can arrive here in Innsbruck from virtually any important city in Europe with no trouble at all. It's the capital of the district called the Tyrol. In the winter, it's very famous for skiing. And we'll be going up to the mountain and see if we can find some snow here in our visit. We're staying at a hotel quite close to the old town, just a few blocks away, so it's very convenient for us. This is part of our tour of the Alps. After all, Austria has a large portion of the Alpine mountain range, and we started in Murano, and we're in Innsbruck now. Our next stop is going to be passing through Zurich. We'll spend an afternoon sightseeing in Zurich, and then on to Lucerne for a couple of days. From Lucerne, we'll go to Interlaken for a couple of days and go up into the Jungfrau area, the Bernese Oberland. From there, we'll head on to Zermatt, where we'll see the famous Matterhorn. And then we'll take the Glacier Express from Zermatt all the way across the country to St. Moritz, a world-famous jet-set resort. And from there, we'll complete our journey, heading south through the Alps back into Italy, ending up finally in Rome. The town of Innsbruck is more than 800 years old, and many of these buildings in the heart of the old town date back 600 years. There's also modern activities like rollerblading over the cobblestone pavements. One of the great things about Innsbruck is that the mountain peaks are right inside the town. It's a brief walk over to the cable car. You go up the funicular railroad, and then you change to a cable car, and that'll take you up to 6,000 feet. There's yet another cable car that takes you higher during the ski season. It'll take you up as high as 2,400 meters. But this is not the ski season, this is the summertime. So we're happy to just go up as far as we can and see if we can get above the clouds, above this mist, and have a look at the sights up on the mountaintop. This schematic shows the route of the cable car up to Seegruber at 1,900 meters, about 6,000 feet. You use your lift ticket, and that admits you to the cable car as well as to the funicular. If this were during the ski season, the lift would be packed with skiers and skis and heavy-duty clothing. You can see how close this lift is to town. Workers have been known to sneak away for a long lunch and get in a ski run while they're at it. Winter sports are so outstanding here that the Winter Olympics were held in 1964, and then they came back just 12 years later to hold them again in Innsbruck in 1976. Looks like it's starting to snow out there. These evergreen trees look like Christmas in June. Actually, this was pretty unusual weather for Innsbruck because by the middle of June it's usually gotten pretty warm, and there's not often snow up here in June or July, but we lucked out and here it is into the white stuff. It might look like it should be cold, but we had jackets on and we're all perfectly comfortable. And typical of nearly all Alpine lifts, there's a civilized deck at the top with a coffee shop.
We've made it up to Seegruber, which is in the snow. We're staying in Innsbruck, Austria, and down in town it was kind of a drizzly day. It's the summertime. This is June 23rd, and the temperature in town was kind of cool. It felt like about 65 degrees, so we figured we'd come up on the mountain and have a view. And instead we came up on the mountain into a snowstorm, and it's just beautiful. It's light flakes coming down, and we're making snowballs and snowmen and frolicking around in the snow. And for some of us Hawaii people, it's the first time we've been in the snow, so that's an extra treat, but fun.
We still have 2 more weeks to go in our tour. We're going to be visiting many other mountaintops, and we'll see a lot of snow and glaciers, and we'll be walking in the snow, but this is the only time in our 16 days that we actually saw snow falling. So this was a real treat. We even got to make a little snowman, a little creative snowman here. There's a lot of other mountain lifts all around Innsbruck itself. There's 150 mountain lifts in the vicinity of the city. There's 1,200 miles of hiking trails, and there's 250 hikers' huts that you can utilize when you're up on an overnight hike. And there's also rooms for rent available attached to this coffee shop. So they really know how to take care of the visitor, whether it's the summer or the winter. You can imagine how hot coffee and a nice pastry really hits the spot at a time like this. There's cafeteria service. You can have a complete lunch if you wish. But we're just up here for the morning, just clowning around, having some fun, and we'll soon be turning around and heading back down the way we came up. The ski lifts are not exactly open at this time of the year, so we couldn't ski down even if we wanted to. But we'd rather take advantage of our round-trip lift ticket anyway and ride back on down the mountain. Soon enough, we'll be back down in town. Innsbruck itself is the largest city in the Alps. It's the only major town that's completely surrounded by the mountains, right nestled into the middle of the Alps. When you think of the Alps, you might think that they're just in Switzerland, but of course they extend into the countries all around Switzerland. In fact, 2/3 of Austria is covered with the Alps. Hiking and skiing are the two most popular sports in the area, but it seems like for the traveler, the two most popular activities are taking pictures and shopping. And we have a chance to do both of those things while we're changing cars from the cable car back onto the cog railway. There's a little shopping stop available for us. And here's a photographic tip from Lloyd and Karen. Take your own picture. Most of these little point-and-shoot cameras have a zoom lens that will get pretty wide, and you can just hold it in front of yourself and grab a nice self-portrait with a scenic background. Continuing on down the cog railway, only takes about a half an hour to get from the top of the mountain back down into town. That's a very good use of your time when you're traveling, especially for a snowy adventure as we've just had. When we left town earlier in the morning, it was drizzling. We got to the top and it was snowing. Now we've come back down again and it's clearing up. Hooray, the sun is coming out. It's turning into a beautiful day. In fact, for the rest of the next 2 weeks, we had hardly any rain, maybe a day and a half of scattered shower here and there, but mostly great weather. This bridge across the river illustrates how Innsbruck got its name. Innsbruck means bridge across the river Inn. And while this is not the original bridge, it gives us some picture of what an old bridge would look like. The city's name demonstrates the historical importance of a bridge across the river because this was crossroads of the Alps. Innsbruck lies at the junction of an easy route from north to south, the Brenner Pass, and the easy route along the Inn River Valley. So for nearly 2,000 years, it's been an important place for the traveler, just as it is for us today, enjoying our breakfast in the hotel. To your health. Salute. It's time to move along and leave our Hotel Gray Bear behind, hop in the wagon and go off to the train station, move on to the next country, and let's hear some comments from our travelers and see what they thought of this interesting place. How'd you like Innsbruck?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's so educational and the new style and the old style.
Once in a lifetime.
It's gonna be
come here.
here. Don't want to leave
If
here.
I ever die, I think I'll be smiling.
Oh, I really liked it. I really liked the local tour guide that we had. She was very knowledgeable. Yeah.
And now we know who Maximilian is, and we know
Yeah.
about Baroque and Rococo, so we took back some information.
Have to do some research now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mountains are always my favorite places. I prefer the mountains to just about any place else. And I've been looking forward to seeing the mountains here, and I have not been disappointed, especially with the snow. My first actual snow falling. I've seen snow on the ground previously, but this is my first actual snowfall, so this was worth it.